Today on the show, we are talking about gymnastics. Andy, do you know about gymnastics?
I do. Just when I was very young, I started doing gymnastics, and I was like, I don't think I'm cut out for this.
So did you learn a cartwheel?
I did. I learned a cartwheel, but you know what I never learned? A back handspring.
Ooh.
It's haunted me ever since.
It haunted you.
It's haunted me. I was like, I never got the back handspring. They just look so cool. And I know that's not the hardest trick.
Cool. But it is a hard one.
It is a hard one?
It is a hard one. But our first guest today can do a cartwheel and a back handspring and so much more. I'm excited to introduce you guys to her. She's a fantastic gymnast. We're talking about all things gymnastics today. I'm Josh Johnson.
And it's Andy.
And welcome to The Perfect Time.
Oh, in the morning, nothing compares to waking up with the sound of the sea.
Today, gymnast Andrea Orris talks about the harsh conditions she was brought up in.
The number one piece of advice he told me was to start going to bed hungry.
And she goes on to talk about the positive steps that she and others are taking to make gymnastics a safe sport for future generations. Then, we're talking to Olympics announcer Mike Villani about some of his most memorable experiences in the entertainment industry.
I had my agent call Danny DeVito, who produced it. They said, please tell Mike there's no contact with Merv. He is supremely upset.
Andrea Orris is our guest today. You have a long list of accomplishments. I'm going to read off a few. You were gymnast at Illinois State University, ISU head choreographer, right? Senior athlete of the year, first team all conference. You were a Gamma Phi circus performer, and you are now a fitness and flexibility instructor, right?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, we're going to be friends.
We already are.
All the things.
Yes.
I
love it.
Can you teach Andy how to do a cartwheel?
Definitely.
Oh man.
That's her
I'm so
dream.
down.
That's her dream, is to become a gymnast. So she's a little starstruck today.
As of right now, that's my new dream, everybody.
I can help you.
Thank you. Okay, good. Right here. Let's just clear the table. There's no table. It's just chairs.
So Andrea, please tell us a little bit about how you started out into gymnastics and what was your background?
So I started gymnastics when I was 7 or 8 years old, which is actually really old for a gymnast. Most people start at 2 or 3. I immediately got onto the competitive team. I really didn't do rec at all. I skipped through the levels very quickly. I made it to the Junior Olympic Nationals twice.
Wow.
And from there I got a scholarship. I got a full ride to Illinois State, which is where I competed and went to college. And then my 5th year of college, I joined the circus. I did the Gamma Phi.
You ran away with the circus.
It was like a movie.
Can we talk a little bit about your upbringing in gymnastics, what it was like for you, good or bad? How was gymnastics like growing up for you?
It was really, really intense for me. The particular team that I had to be on was very serious training. You had to be homeschooled to be on my team. It was not an option. We trained from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the morning. Then we went to a little private gymnastics school that was made for us from 12:30 to 3. And then we went right back to practice from 3:30 to 7:30. And that was 6 days a week from when I was 11 years old until I went to college.
Wow.
So we were training 37
8 hours a day?
Yeah.
It's a full-time job?
Yeah, it is.
We were training 37 to 4 hours a week.
And this was around what age?
Age 11 until I went to college, till 18.
Okay, wow. So all those years, 8 hours a day.
It was
you were training.
Very intense, very, very intense. And at the time, I thought this is what's required to be great. But now that I'm older and looking back, I think that was so unnecessary. It caused so much burnout. It caused mental stress, emotional stress, physical stress. It was just really, really a lot. And then talking about the culture again, like eating disorders and stuff like that are just so rampant, especially in elite gymnastics.
Now, why do you think that is? Why does it need to be so intense?
So something we're learning now is that you can peak at a much older age than we previously thought. Before, like when I was growing up and before me, the generations before me, we were under the false narrative that you need to peak before puberty. So all these girls on the Olympic teams you were seeing were 14, 15, 16 years old. You watch them on TV and they're in these leotards and they're so fit, and you kind of look at them as a young adult, but they're not adults. They're children.
Wow.
And the coaches are going to extreme measures to delay puberty in these kids. And obviously that's not healthy.
Yeah.
My experience, it was very bad. By the time I was 12 years old, I remember this day crystal clear, like it was yesterday. I will never forget this day. I was doing a skill on bars called a blind change, where you have to swing around the bar, turn around, and go over. And I fell on the wrong side of the bar. And so my coach was like, he pointed at me, he was like, come here, like with this serious face. And he was like, do you know why you fell? And I'm like, 12. And I'm like, I don't know.
I'm 12.
I'm 12.
I don't understand physics. I don't know.
And he says to me, you fell on the wrong side because you're gaining weight. And he goes, you look
You
like,
said you're gaining weight?
he said, you look like you've gained about 5 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
But the context of this conversation was very warm. It wasn't like, you're getting bigger, you're doing this.
Yeah.
It was so
Subtle, right?
like, it was subtle. It was like, I'm about to give you information now that's going to help you. And he said to me, there's 3 things you can do to help you not gain weight. And again, I'm 12. I am prepubescent. I don't even need to wear a bra yet at this age. Like, I'm not even close to puberty. I'm very tiny. And he's like, he told me the number 1 piece of advice he told me was to start going to bed hungry, and that it's not a bad thing to go to bed hungry. And then the second piece of advice he gave me was, before every meet, before every competition, don't eat dinner 3 nights before every meet. That way I'll wake up feeling lighter, and when it's time for me to compete, I'm going to feel light and I will fly over the bar. And then the third thing he told me to do was to start weighing myself every day. And he was like, sometimes doing it every day can be a lot. He's like, so you can start, maybe weighing yourself 2 or 3 times a week, then you could go to once a week, and then multiple times a day. So
what was going through your mind when
Yeah.
all these questions and
So I had heard him talk like that to a couple of the older girls. So I was kind of expecting it.
so it didn't strike you as odd or
It did and didn't. I was used to it, and I had seen him do this to other kids. That being said, at age 12, I still knew this is something my parents wouldn't approve of. So I did not
so you
tell
kind of
him.
knew it was wrong.
Something in me was
Intuitively.
kind of like, this might not be right.
Yeah.
But I also was like, he was an Olympic champion, and he has coached world and Olympic
He had
champions.
that knowledge and the
So
power.
he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So that's fine with me. And at that time, I was willing to sacrifice anything
Wow.
to be an amazing gymnast.
I've heard
I
that
would have
one.
given anything.
Yeah.
So I'm like, even if I feel like maybe this is wrong,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to do it if
Mhm.
it's going to make me a champion.
Wow.
That night, I literally went home, and I got home late at night after my family had already eaten because I'm at practice late. So I always would just eat leftovers alone. And that night, I just kind of put some food in a bowl and put it in the sink to make it look like I ate, because I knew my parents would not approve of me not eating.
So you were fooling them a little bit into
Mhm.
not knowing how deep this was going, right?
Yeah. So that started anorexia,
Oh, gosh.
which eventually turned into bulimia.
Mhm.
And that went on for several years until by the time I was 17, I did end up having to go to inpatient eating disorder rehab. It was starting to damage my heart. I went from being an elite athlete, training 8 hours a day, to I had to go on 1 month bed rest to
Really?
fix my heart.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't pass a stress test. I don't know if you're familiar with like how those work, but you get hooked up to an EKG. I couldn't pass a stress test yet. I was training for 8 hours. So it was like
Wow.
my heart was in really bad shape, which is why I had to go on bed rest. By that time, I had already committed to Illinois State on a full scholarship, and realized this was back in like 2005, 2006.
Mhm.
So we did not have smartphones. We did not have YouTube even. That was brand new.
I don't remember those.
So,
Before my time.
like-
I was born with a smartphone in my hand.
Yeah, it seems that way.
I'm bringing that up because if that were to happen today, you couldn't get away with your college coaches not knowing that, because you can update them instantly every practice now. I was able to just not compete my entire senior year. I was in rehab, and my college
Oh my
coaches
gosh.
didn't know
Oh my gosh.
until I arrived at ISU. I wouldn't say that necessarily fixed my eating disorders, but when I did stop having eating disorders was when I got to ISU. And it truly was as simple as my coaches at Illinois State being so kind and welcoming and complimentary and being like, you're a really good gymnast.
Yeah.
We want you on our team.
That was different for you to have that positive feedback.
Yes, it was, I don't ever
Breath
forget
of fresh
too,
air, right?
my freshman year, one of my teammates goes, you have really beautiful toe point. And I just remember being like, I do? That's the first time I've been complimented on my gymnastics ever.
Wow.
You know,
It kind of sounds like getting out of a toxic relationship.
It really
It
actually
was.
does.
Right.
it is, and it's so interesting though, because why gymnastics is unique from other sports is, again, like, these are children you're talking about, so we can talk about that now as an adult with our experiences. Like, that's a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid and that's how you're like introduced
You don't know anything
those
else.
types of
right?
relationships, how do you navigate that?
Oh.
You're not emotionally mature. You haven't had life experiences.
Yeah. You are now taking your past and your experience and you're turning the culture around and making it better. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you're doing to make gymnastics now, because it's changing so much, right?
Mhm.
It's changing so much, and you're a big part of that. You are speaking out. You're making gymnastics a healthier sport, more positive sport.
Mhm.
Tell us about what you're doing and how you see that.
I want all of my kids to feel very seen.
Mm.
I want them to know their strengths. I try to compliment them all the time. It takes one compliment. This was back in 2006, and I remember one person telling me, you have pretty toe points. Seriously.
Yeah.
And you can kind of identify with that and be like, oh, this is something good about me, so I'm going to do this more.
Mhm.
I had no idea that I had good toe point until one person said it to me.
One person's all it takes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, it's so
Yeah.
true. So I try to compliment my kids constantly and find things that are unique to them. I try to ask them a lot of questions about their family or their homework or what is your favorite color? What do you like to do? Like, I just want them to know that I care about them, and then they want to perform for you and they
Right.
want to work harder for
Such
you.
a difference, right?
Yeah.
From what you experienced growing up.
If your kids feel like you like them,
Mhm.
they want to do anything for you,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they'll trust you.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
more important than having Olympic gymnastics knowledge.
But even so, the results are going to be better, right?
Mhm.
They're going to be healthier and perform better, right?
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Speaking of now, what your mission is,
Mhm.
here on The Perfect Time, we like to, talk about the morning as the time to launch your day. So what gets you up in the morning?
To springboard your day in
Springboard
gymnastics
your
terms.
day. Wow.
To
Honey,
vault your day
honey.
into...
Honestly, shifting the gymnastics culture really has, for me, felt like a deep purpose. So if I feel like I am changing kids' lives or making a difference, that makes me motivated. That makes me feel good. So
That's incredible.
And do you still do gymnastics? Do you still tumble?
I do gymnastics for fun. I am.
If you follow, shout out to your Instagram. If you follow, what is it?
Andrea Orris, just
Andrea Orris.
yeah.
If you follow her, you're going to see her. She is, you'd think she's still competing because she's just as flexible and just as talented as she ever was, right? I've seen your stuff.
Oh my goodness.
She's doing round off double back tucks on her Instagram. It's incredible. Make sure you give her a follow. Now, real quickly, I want to touch on Simone Biles.
Oh right.
I want to touch on Simone Biles. Now, as many people know out there, she had an issue during the Olympics, right, where she had to stop competing because she was having
The twisties.
the twisties. Exactly. Now, I know that
We'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there. And he's like, what is this?
The twisties.
Now, you came out with a post, right?
Mhm.
A very popular post that got
Mhm.
retweeted. It ended up going viral, right? Because you commented on Simone Biles and the twisties. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your thoughts are on the twisties?
Yeah. So that was interesting. I actually wasn't even watching or following the Olympics. I normally don't because I just know what those girls go through, and I don't really like to
You're
watch it.
empathizing so strongly.
Yeah, I just usually read the results, and I randomly woke up at like 4 a.m. and they obviously were in a different country, so they were competing, and I'm like in my bed, it's dark out, and I'm like scrolling my Instagram, and everything's like Simone Biles like pulled out of the vault final,
Yeah.
blah blah blah, and I was like, it woke me right up, and I was like, wow, something really insane must have happened because what? So I woke up right away. I put on the TV. I figured out what happened. And already all the internet trolls were like, she's a quitter. She's a disgrace to America. She's the worst. You
Wow.
can't call her the
Wait,
GOAT.
people complaining on the internet? What?
That's so weird.
And I was like, no, I'm going to shut this down immediately. This is
And you did.
so
and
unfair.
you did. Yeah, yeah.
And so I made this really long post, like multiple slides. And my first slide was just a title, Why We Should Support Simone Biles Not Competing Vault Finals at the Olympics. And I made multiple slides explaining exactly why.
Yeah.
So I felt an immediate need to defend Simone because I also knew that a lot of the people complaining that have very large platforms, so millions of people were seeing this, are people that do not know gymnastics.
Don't know gymnastics.
And do not know Simone. They see her once every 4 years for a couple seconds, and then they're like, yeah, I know everything about this girl. And like, that's so unfair. This girl has been through sexual assault her entire childhood. She won world championships while passing a kidney stone. She's won national championships with broken toes. She's been through so much. And so for you to see one thing in 1 second and be like, this girl is a quitter, she's weak, she's what's wrong with America, I was like, that's completely unfair. So I started by just explaining a little bit her history and what she hasn't quit on. And then I explained why she quit, which was that she got the twisties. We can circle back to that and go in more detail, but briefly, it's basically when you get vertigo for a gymnast and you lose track in the air of how many flips or twists you've done. And you very clearly saw that happen to her during her fall. She was supposed to do a 2.5. She accidentally did a 1.5. Her head was like this when you land, and if you're a gymnast, you know, like, your head has to be out seeing the floor. And if your chin's on your chest while you're twisting, it's really dangerous because you don't know where the ground is. She landed really awkward, really just roughly, which is really, really dangerous. And I also think people from the outside have no idea how dangerous that is and how hard it is on your body. So that was the second thing I touched on. And then I touched on, and we shouldn't even judge her, even if we do know all the facts, because none of us are Simone Biles.
Yeah.
So
We're not
she's a
Simone.
human. Like, we can't judge people. It's just not fair. You just don't know.
The most decorated gymnast in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And people are out here acting like they know anything about it.
And other people don't understand, too, that if it didn't even go to this Olympics at all, she would still retire the greatest of all time.
Still a great.
She's so far ahead of any gymnast in the history of ever.
So it's so wonderful that you stepped in and you made this piece, right? It goes viral. I'm sure there are a lot of people who were really educated by what you had to say, by your knowledge and all that. I mean, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Simone actually, she deleted all of her stories and posts that she had up, and she put up my post only.
Wow. I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Wow.
She made it her Instagram story.
Wow.
And then
that's incredible.
I don't have a Twitter, but my friend has Twitter, and he reposted it.
Yeah.
And she saw his tweet, and she reposted on Twitter.
Wow.
And then and it got over 17 million views.
Wow.
It was crazy. My insights on my Instagram were like ching ching ching. I was like, I went back to bed and I woke up and all my friends were like, Simone Biles reposted your thing. And I was like, nice. I was like, I'm so glad she saw it.
And you actually knew what you're talking about because you grew up in gymnastics. Did you ever have the twisties yourself?
I literally still have it today. I'm not joking.
You have the twisties right now?
Right now.
Right now. Are you going to fall out of this chair?
It's
I'm just teasing.
Josh has that effect on people.
I give the twisties. Oh, careful, Simone. Don't get too close.
Oh my god.
Let's take a look now at Andrea's Instagram and see some of her awesome skills. One more time. Let's take a look now at Andrea's Instagram and check out some of her awesome skills. Twisties included, right?
Yes.
Twisties included.
Some twisties in there.
Baby, you cast a spell on me, and it's crazy. My heart won't let me leave, even though I know our house on fire, burning. Even though I know you.
Okay, so we're back and we're talking about gymnastics and the future of gymnastics. So nice to talk to Andrea and find out about all the positive things that are happening, not just from her, but from coaches and gyms all over the world that is making gymnastics a positive and incredible sport that it is, changing the culture.
Yeah,
right?
the consciousness that's coming out of people's experiences and people like Andrea who are taking those experiences and converting them into something better.
A quick shout out. My brother runs a gym in Pasadena, club champion. He is also part of the solution. Completely positive environment. The future of gymnastics.
The future of gymnastics and sports really in general. And speaking of sports, because we got one of the coolest, most experienced people here with us today to jump in on this conversation.
Yep.
So Mike Villani.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. So Mike, not only did he have a radio show for 15 years, he's, let's see, a voiceover and actor on camera. He's been in huge films, one of my favorites being Bruce Almighty. That's actually one of my favorite movies.
Thank you.
And he worked for NBC for many programs, including The Tonight Show, which...
was that with Jay Leno?
It was with Johnny Carson, actually.
Johnny Carson?
Sure, yeah.
That's amazing.
I was a page. It was my first job.
Wow.
Your first job.
As a page at NBC and worked on a number of shows. But go ahead, tell me more.
Oh, yes. Let me keep bragging on you, Mike, for a little
Please
bit.
continue.
And this is actually Josh's favorite part, but you were the spokesman for Ditech.
Yes, I was. It was
Right?
a big mortgage company.
Do you recognize that voice?
Want to refinance, cash out equity, call 1-800-DITECH.com. No salesman will visit. Void were prohibited by law. Remember FDIC?
We have a new sponsor on the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well,
Can you do one for the morning show
absolutely.
for our perfect time?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah?
We'll do a little, why don't you let me be the announcer for the morning show?
Let you be the announcer?
Yes, please, thank you.
Let you be the announcer?
We'll talk about that after.
Oh,
Yeah,
My
we'll
people-
audition you.
My people talk to your people.
No, it would be a
Yeah.
huge honor to have MrDitech.com
Well, thank you.
announce our show.
And speaking of being an announcer, you are also, since 2004, I believe, you've been an announcer for the Olympic Games.
I have.
And now you're more especially involved in announcing the gymnastics portion.
Well, I'll tell you how that works.
Okay,
would you like to
please
hear
do.
that?
I would love that.
Well, I'm a venue announcer for, as I said, indoor volleyball. The FIVB, the federation, all got younger, the people running it. And of course, I got older. And so they wanted younger kids to make it more like beach volleyball. They wanted kids up there shooting T-shirt cannons and rah, rah, rah.
I can see you with one of those guns.
Yeah.
You look like a good shot.
Yeah, exactly. I'd probably put somebody's eye out. But so I transitioned into still doing my acting and my voiceover in studio at home, but I transitioned into gymnastics, and it was very interesting how that happened. Last year, I went to the Junior Olympics, the Junior Pan Am Games, actually, in Cali, Colombia. And I did gymnastics. I learned it, and it's pretty
You
much.
did gymnastics?
I was a synchronized
Cartwheels?
swimmer back in. Just kidding.
You're right, amigo. I believed it. I want to show that footage.
My Italian body, you can put a Speedo on. But anyway, I was in Cali.
We would love to see that speedo
Oh
on
my
you.
God, no! I was in Cali, Colombia, and I did gymnastics. And on the way out, we were sitting in the airport, and I met the young ladies who were doing rhythmic. I did pretty much all of it, but rhythmic gymnastics. And a young lady who was a coach, Anna Lesher, I gave her my card and said, if you guys ever need anything, I'd like to, knowing that I needed to transition because volleyball wasn't going to be happening anymore. And earlier this summer, she called me and had me do a regional meet in Irvine down here in Southern California. And then I got called by the vice president of Rhythmic to announce the national championships in Des Moines, Iowa. For rhythmic gymnastics. And I liked it, I learned it, and so a lot of the times, Andrea, as you probably know, the announcers are pretty much, that was Andrea Orris, blah, 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 blah.
Boring, right?
It was just kind of announcing it.
Yeah.
I made it, nice job, Andrea, what a great routine.
Yeah.
And we'll see her a little later on. I made it kind of more conversational.
And adding that affirmation and positivity that we're talking about.
Yeah,
Gymnastics.
exactly.
Wow.
So talking about the future of gymnastics and Andrea being so instrumental after learning what you learned, and I'm sitting here watching this interview, it's amazing that you've turned out to be the person that you are, and to be able to pass this along, because these young girls are so impressionable. So I've announced the real younger girls, 3 and 4. 4 or 5, you know.
Mhm.
And then at the World Games, I was the announcer for gymnastics as well, and that was in Birmingham, Alabama this summer, and the older girls as well. So you could see the discipline, but it's hard to think about what they had to go through for all of this. So I'm very interested. He mentioned an expert. I'm certainly not an expert, but I'm learning more and more, and I'm hoping to go to Paris, France.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if I can still climb the stairs to the booth, be here in LA in 8 years from
Yes.
now. So
Yes,
I'm
that's what we're excited about.
Very, very excited about this.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh! Well, I think that's the mark of a true master. When you say I'm not an expert, I'm still learning. After all of your experience and everything you've done,
Right.
to still be able to say that's why you're
The
the future.
Ditech guy right here. Come on.
You know how many people who don't even remember Ditech? That happened about 20 years ago, 1996 through 2006. But it was big. I was on
Well,
camera.
okay,
I guarantee you, the comments are going to blow up with that voice and the Ditech.
Yes.
It's all coming together because when you told me that, when I first met you, I said, wait a minute, now I know you've been in a lot of movies, but there's something in the back of my mind that I know you from.
Right.
I couldn't put my finger on it, though. As soon as you said ditech.com, I was like, I was back home and I was sick from school. I'm like, I know this. I know these commercials.
Well, if you were being homeschooled, then you probably had it on in the background. But,
Yeah, there you
it was,
go.
It was very
Oh
nice.
my gosh.
It was very nice.
You were the impression of
Yeah.
little Josh.
Little Josh Johnson.
Little Josh Johnson.
Yeah.
I used to sit home and go, ditech.com. Do my impersonation of you.
Yeah.
I call it a golden voice. Okay, it's
Well,
like
you're very kind.
butter.
It's.
I mean, that's
There's
a money maker,
There's
right?
so many guys that have wonderful voices. Being in radio, I cultivated my voiceover career. I had one of the great first agents, Andrea Romano, who was the head of voice casting for Warner Brothers, and she was my first agent. I'm Italian, she's Italian. We start talking, and we go, yeah. She goes, but you got to lose that radio sound, that high time at the top of Tim Tower, make the mark of the work 58 degrees.
Don't you dare lose that sound.
Well,
How dare she?
How dare
But
dare
she's a dear friend, and I've done a number of things for her. But I'm a faith-based person, so I believe that there's a plan. Whether you believe in God or Buddha or karma or whatever, there's something going on in this world. Obviously, it's happened to you, Andrea, that keeps you going forward. You ask, and you might have gonna ask this, but what gets me up in the morning is the positivity.
How'd you know we were going to ask that?
Because I think I heard that.
Please,
I love
please.
your show, by the way. So
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. No, but please answer that. for
Well,
us.
I'll tell you what it is. For me, it's having a wonderful home life and a wonderful wife, and but getting up every day with the knowledge that something new is going to happen to me.
Yeah.
That I haven't folded the tents, and you really can't. You have to go forward and be patient.
Yeah.
Be patient. But if you really believe something is going to happen for you, it'll happen
At the perfect time.
at the perfect time in the morning.
I love it. Ooh, in the morning. I love it, and I love the message. I can talk to you on and on. Please, just because I don't want to forget this, can you please give a shout out, okay, to all of the gamers out there, okay? Which I am not one, but I know there are a lot of gamers out there who would love to know what you did.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I've done a number of games, but the two big ones, and that I get a lot of response from, and because of IMDb, people from all over the world will call and ask for my autograph for a character I played in a game called BioShock, the very first BioShock.
I was Peach Wilkins, and he worked for Mr. Fontaine, and he was kind of a crazy little guy. And he says, Mr. Fontaine wants me to talk to you because he is not happy with you.
So that was Peach. And how you get into a voice like this, and I know you've had other actors on that have talked about this, but how you get into a voice...
Not Mr. Peach.
No, Mr. Peach.
Peach Wilkins. You look at the character, and then when you audition, you have to develop what you think in your mind that character is going to sound like. And he was just a little off, Then I got an audition for another one, and I wasn't a gamer. Got an audition for another game that I played a character called Lord Ignatius, the God of Fire. You had to kill me before you got to the next level.
Andy's terrified over here.
And it was in a
Both of
game.
them.
It was called the World of Warcraft, and I didn't.
Who's ever heard of
Oh,
that?
yeah, that was a little obscure.
Yeah,
know
Please
anything
explain.
about it. I didn't know anything about it. I came home, talked to my younger wife, and I said, I just auditioned for this and got this. She goes, "Are you kidding me? World of Warcraft, Blizzard Entertainment."
And you're like, what is that? I don't know.
I don't know. I just did it.
I go home and play Mario Kart. What do I know?
Pac-Man.
There you go.
Oh, man. All
But
right.
so yes, so that's a big part of my voiceover stuff. I have, as I say, a studio in my home, but I'm really looking forward, Andrea, to getting. And I want to give you a card because there are big questions that I'm going to ask Twisties. I have no idea
right.
what a twisty is except for that donut over there. but
We
things
do
like
have donuts
that,
in the
if you
show
don't
this
mind,
morning.
we'll
Yeah,
certainly
of
work
course.
together. But
Look at this
I'm
networker
looking-
in action. I love it. This guy's the master.
I'm looking
This is
forward.
how you get the big
Such a
gigs.
master.
Well, as you get older, they're fewer and far between, but they're still nonetheless satisfying.
You know what though?
No.
You worked with Jim Carrey
I did.
twice, right?
Well, I worked with him. Well, I played Merv Griffin in Jim Carrey's Man on the Moon. the
I
Andy
saw that.
Kaufman.
It was incredible.
Yeah. Well, what happened was Merv wanted to play that, but I actually was on camera with him, and I wanted to meet Merv Griffin just to kind of see what the feel of the day was. I'm trying to bring all this acting stuff up, but I just wanted to meet the guy. He was
That's
the
what I mean.
most powerful man in Hollywood. Created the game shows, and so I had my agent call Danny DeVito, who produced it, Jersey Films, and they said, "Please tell Mike there's no contact with Merv. He is supremely upset that we're not letting him play the part." This scene happened back in 1973 or 4 when Andy Kaufman went on his show,
Yeah.
talk show.
They needed a cool young guy to play.
Well, they needed somebody that didn't look like he did at that
Yeah,
particular time a
exactly.
few years ago.
A hip young guy.
So they had a national casting session, and I
Yeah.
got it. So he said,
Awesome.
but no contact with Merv, and please tell Mike we're very sorry, but we've cut all of his lines because we want to minimize the part so Merv
Doesn't get mad.
Doesn't get mad. So
Wow.
the whole scene, which is about 2 minutes, I'm going,
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Making expressions. But you look just like him. You look incredible.
well, they bouffoned my hair a little bit.
Hair looks great.
Yeah. So, but I worked with him also that day for 2 days
Mhm.
on
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, Jim Carrey
Yeah.
on the shooting set at the Ambassador Hotel, the old Ambassador Hotel where Robert Kennedy was shot.
Wow.
And but I worked with him, and he's an incredible guy. He wanted to play Andy Kaufman so bad that he became the incarnate. He thought he was kind of the reincarnate of Andy Kaufman. He was a big fan of his,
Mhm.
so he was in character the whole time.
Wow.
But he would, when we're on the stage and they're resetting the lights, he would come up to me and we'd have a little chat, out of character, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Wow.
And then Milos Forman, the great director, filmmaker, shot the film and directed the film. And so at one particular point, I'm on the stage, and Jim is doing his part, and Milos Forman goes, "Cut!" Walk over to him, he goes, "Please move. You're standing in Mr. Carey's eye line." Thank you, Mr. Forman.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so I've had a lot of good experiences.
Okay, well, and I was gonna do a shout out to one of our sponsors because we have a bunch of little candles around here. So, Reminiscence by Elise, thank you very much for
Thank you.
gracing
It smells wonderful.
gracing
Wonderful.
our
Thank you, Elise.
environment.
Check out that episode if you haven't yet.
Yes.
The Elise-isode, we call it.
Elise-isode.
Yeah.
And Lisa-sode. And Club Champions Gymnastics, thank you
Club
so
Champion
much
Gymnastics.
for the introductions. And you guys, this has been amazing.
The future of gymnastics is in great hands. Right here.
Thank
it
you.
really is.
Thank you,
Here's
guys.
to you,
Believe it.
and here's to you guys, and thank you for having
Thank you.
me, and I'm sure
Thank you.
Andrea feels
Thank
the
you.
same way.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, in
Wonderful show.
Spanish, when two people have the same name, like you and I with Andrea,
Mm-hmm.
we call it tocaya. So you're my tocaya.
Oh,
It's almost like with family. Hola tocaya. And then we never say each other's names, we just say that. Just a little side bit. I don't know why. Tocaya. If you guys had the same name, then it would be
Yeah.
tocayo.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yes.
That's nice to know.
There you go.
He doesn't care.
Random.
Next on our Spanish language.
I just wanted to contribute some knowledge to today. I had
You did.
nothing.
You did. So I have to ask you though, Andy.
Yeah,
Is it a good time to start taking gymnastic lessons?
I think it's always the perfect time.
That's the perfect time. Cheers. Oh, all around. Gymnastics and
Do
future
gymnastics.
gymnastics. And scene.
Cause you say